Tay opened his eyes slowly. The light was too bright. Everything was blurry. He tried to move, but his body felt like it was made of stone. Where was he? The last thing he remembered was fire, explosions, running through the dying ship, finding an escape pod, pressing the launch button before everything went black. He blinked several times, and the world came into focus. He was in a hospital room. Clean white walls, soft beeping machines, the smell of medicine and clean sheets. He was alive. He tried to lift his left arm and felt nothing. He looked down and saw only empty space where his arm used to be. The memory came back to him like a knife. The Vec, Commander, the axe, the explosion. He had lost his arm, but he had won. A small smile crossed his face. "You are awake." Tay turned his head. Sitting in a chair next to his bed was Queen Nari. She was not wearing her royal robes or her golden crown. She was dressed simply, like an ordinary person. Her glowing eyes were soft, not harsh-thought. She looked different. She looked almost human. "Your Majesty," Tay said. His voice was rough and weak. "What are you doing here?" "I have been waiting for you to wake up," she said. "For 6 days." Tay stared at her. 6 days? You have been sitting here for 6 days? "Not the whole time," she admitted. "I had duties to attend to, but I came back every chance I could. I wanted to be here when you opened your eyes." Tay did not know what to say. He had never expected this. The Queen of the Galactic Empire, waiting by the bed of a simple soldier. It made no sense. "I read the report," Nari said quietly. "I saw your name on the heroes list, all 17 entries." Tay's face did not change. "Those files were supposed to be classified. I am the Queen. Nothing is classified from me." She leaned forward in her chair. "Why did you never tell anyone? Why did you hide what you have done?" Tay was silent for a long moment. He looked at the ceiling, at the white tiles and the soft lights. "When I was young," he said finally, "I wanted to be a hero. I dreamed of medals and parades. I wanted everyone to know my name." He paused. "Then my family was killed. I learned something important." "What did you learn?" "That heroes are not the ones who seek glory. Heroes are the ones who do what is right, even when no one is watching. Even when no one will ever know." He turned his head and looked at her. "The people I saved are alive. That is enough. Their lives are my reward. I need nothing else." Nari felt something wet on her cheek. She touched it and realized it was a tear. She had not cried in 100 years. She had thought herself above such weakness. But this was not weakness. This was something else. Something she had almost forgotten. It was humility. "I judged you wrongly," she said. "When I saw you during the inspection, I thought you were ordinary. I thought you were nothing special. I was blind." "You saw what I wanted you to see," Tay replied. "I am very good at being invisible. I am very good at being invisible. I am very good at being invisible. It is part of my job." "But you are not invisible," Nari said. "Not anymore. Not to me." She stood up from her chair and did something that shocked everyone who saw it. She bowed. The Queen of the Galactic Empire, ruler of 47 planets, commander of the greatest fleet in the universe, bowed to a human soldier with one arm and no medals. "Your Majesty." Lord Quan rushed forward from the doorway. "You cannot bow to a silence," Nari said calmly. She straightened and looked at Tay. "This man has done more for our people than any general or admiral. He has given his blood, his body, and his peace of mind. The least I can give him is my respect." Tay shook his head slowly. "Your Majesty, please. I am not worthy of such honor." "That is exactly why you are worthy," Nari replied. "A man who does not seek honor is the only one who truly deserves it. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small golden star. It was the Medal of the Sun, the highest honor in the Galactic Empire. It had only been given 7 times in 10,000 years. "I want you to have this," she said. Tay looked at the medal, then looked at her. "I told you, I do not need rewards." "I know," Nari said. "But please, take it. Not for yourself. Take it for your mother, your father, and your sister. Take it so the universe will know what they raised. Take it so their memory will live forever." Tay's eyes grew wet. For the first time since the day his family died, he felt tears on his face. He had been strong for so long. He had buried his pain so deep. But now, in this quiet room, with this strange queen looking at him with such kindness, he finally let himself feel. He reached out with his remaining hand and took the medal. "Thank you," he whispered. Nari smiled. It was a real smile, warm and gentle. "No, Tay, thank you. You have taught me something I had forgotten. You have shown me that the greatest strength is not in power or glory. It is in the quiet courage of those who give everything and ask for nothing." She turned and walked toward the door. Before she left, she looked back one more time. "When you are healed," she said, "I would like you to advise me. Not as a soldier, but as a friend. I have ruled for 1,000 years, but I have never truly understood what it means to be a hero. I think you can teach me." Tay smiled, his eyes still wet with tears. "I am just a simple man, Your Majesty. I do not know if I have anything to teach." "You have more to teach than you know," she replied. "Rest now. We will talk again soon." She left the room. The door closed softly behind her. Tay lay back on his pillow and looked at the medal in his hand. It was small and golden and beautiful. It caught the light and sparkled like a tiny star. He thought of his mother, who had taught him kindness. He thought of his father, who had taught him strength. He thought of his sister, who had taught him how to laugh. They were gone, but they lived on in him. In every mission he completed, in every life he saved, in every quiet act of courage that no one would ever see, he closed his eyes and held the medal to his heart. Outside the hospital window, the star stretched out into infinity. The war was not over. There would be more battles, more sacrifices, more pain. But for now, in this moment, there was peace. And somewhere in the galaxy, a quiet human hero slept, knowing that he had made a difference. That was enough. It had always been enough. 3 days had passed since the great battle. The Vec mothership was destroyed. The enemy fleet had scattered like leaves in a storm. For the first time in 20 years, the Galactic Alliance had won a major victory. Queen Nari sat alone in her private chambers. The celebration was happening outside. Music and laughter filled the ship. But she did not feel like celebrating. She was reading the official war report. The report was long and detailed. It contained the names of every soldier who had fought, every ship that had been destroyed, every planet that had been saved. It was the record of the greatest battle in galactic history. But Nari was not interested in the numbers. She was looking for one name. Tay. She had asked about him every day since the battle. Had he survived? Had he escaped the mothership before it exploded? No one could answer her questions. The chaos had been too great. Many soldiers were still missing. But this morning, something had changed. A small rescue ship had been found drifting in space, far from the battlefield. Inside was a single human, barely alive, with only one arm. The medical team had rushed him to the hospital wing of the ship. It was Tay. He was in critical condition, but he was breathing. Against all odds, he had survived. Nari should have felt relief. Instead, she felt something else. A strange feeling she could not name. It was like a puzzle piece that did not fit. Like a question she could not answer. She turned back to the war report and continued reading. And then she found something that made her blood run cold. At the end of the report was a special section called the Heroes List. It contained the names of soldiers who had performed extraordinary acts of bravery during the war. Not just this battle, but all the battles of the past 20 years. It was the highest honor a soldier could receive. Nari began to read the list. The first name was Tay. She blinked and looked again. Yes, it was his name. But why was it at the top? He was a private first class. He had no medals, no recognition. How could he be on this list? She read the entry next to his name. Mission: Shadow Strike. Year 3 of the war. Soldier Tay infiltrated enemy base on planet Korra and destroyed their communication center. This action saved the Third Fleet from ambush. 12,000 lives preserved. Status: classified. Nari stared at the words. She did not understand. She scrolled down. The second name was also Tay. Mission: Silent Thunder. Year 5 of the war. Soldier Tay rescued 47 prisoners from Vec death camp on Moon of Jira. Single-handed operation. Status: classified. The third name was Tay. Mission: Lost Light. Year 7 of the war. Soldier Tay defended colony. New bridge for 16 hours against superior enemy forces. Held position until reinforcements arrived. 200 civilians evacuated. Status: classified. Nari kept scrolling. Her hands were shaking now. The fourth name was Tay. The fifth name was Tay. The sixth, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, all Tay. She counted 17 entries in total. 17 impossible missions over 7 years. Each one labeled classified. Each one completed by the same quiet human she had dismissed as ordinary and weak. She dropped the report on the table and stood up. Her heart was pounding. Her mind was spinning with questions. How could this be? How could one man do so much and ask for nothing in return? How could he fight in the shadows for 7 years while she walked past him like he was invisible? She grabbed the report and stormed out of her chambers. Lord Quan was waiting in the corridor. He saw the look on her face and stepped back. "Your Majesty? Is something wrong?" "Come with me," she ordered. Now, they walked quickly through the ship until they reached the office of the military records. The officer in charge was a nervous Solari named Jay. He jumped to his feet when he saw the Queen. "Your Majesty, how can I serve you?" Nari threw the report on his desk. "Explain this," she said. "Explain why a private first class has 17 entries on the heroes list. Explain why all of them are classified. Explain why I have never heard of any of this." Jay looked at the report, and his face went pale. Your Majesty, this is..." "Speak," Nari commanded. Jay took a deep breath. "The soldier Tay is part of a special program, Your Majesty. A secret program. Soldiers in this program take on the most dangerous missions. Missions that no one else can complete. They work alone. They receive no credit. Their actions are never reported to the public." "Why?" Nari demanded. "Because..." Jay hesitated. "Because these missions often require methods that are not officially approved. And because the soldiers themselves request it. They do not want recognition. They only want to serve." Nari stared at him. "And Tay has been doing this for 7 years?" "Yes, Your Majesty. He is the most successful operative in the program's history. He has saved more lives than any other soldier in the Alliance. But he has never once asked for a medal or a promotion. He only asks for the next mission." The room was silent. Lord Quan stepped forward, his face filled with shock. "Your Majesty, I had no idea. None of the High Command knew about this." "That was the point," Jay said quietly. The program exists in the shadows. That is where soldiers like Tay do their work. Nari closed her eyes. She remembered standing in front of Tay during the inspection. She remembered looking at him and seeing nothing. She remembered asking why he had no promotions after 7 years. "I do what must be done," he had said. "I do not ask for rewards." She had thought he was a fool. She had thought he was weak. She had been so wrong. "Where is he now?" she asked. "In the medical wing, Your Majesty. He is still unconscious. The doctors say he may not wake up for several days. His injuries were severe." Nari turned and walked toward the door. "Your Majesty?" Lord Quan called after her. "Where are you going?" She did not answer. She did not need to. She was going to see the hero she had ignored, the soldier she had dismissed, the human who had taught her that true strength does not wear medals or seek glory. She was going to wait by his bed until he woke up. Because for the first time in her life, Queen Nari of the Galactic Empire wanted to bow before someone else, and that someone was a quiet man named Tay. Tay climbed into the small fighter ship. It was old and worn, barely big enough for one person. The controls were simple. The weapons were weak. But it was fast, and that was all that mattered. He closed the cockpit and took a deep breath. Through the small window, he could see the stars and the distant flashes of battle. Ships were exploding. People were dying. Every second he waited, more lives were lost. He started the engine. "Private Tay," a voice crackled through his radio. It was Captain Hyan. "The exhaust port will open in exactly 4 minutes. You will have 30 seconds to enter. Do you understand?" "Yes, Captain." "Good luck, soldier. The whole fleet is counting on you." Tay did not reply. He pushed the throttle forward and shot out of the launch bay like a bullet from a gun. The space around him was chaos. Vec fighters swarmed everywhere, their weapons lighting up the darkness with green fire. Alliance ships tried to fight back, but they were losing. The Vec mothership sat at the center of the battle like a giant spider, untouchable behind its glowing shield. Tay flew straight toward it. A Vec fighter spotted him and gave chase. Green lasers flashed past his window. Tay did not panic. He did not change course. He simply watched the enemy on his scanner and waited. At the last second, he pulled hard to the left. The Vec fighter tried to follow, but it was too slow. It crashed into the shield of the mothership and exploded in a ball of fire. Tay continued forward. 2 minutes left. More Vec fighters came after him. 3 of them this time. Tay spun his ship in ways that should have been impossible. He flew through the gaps between enemy ships. He used the debris of destroyed vessels as cover. One by one, the Vec fighters fell behind or crashed, trying to follow him. 1 minute left. Tay could see the exhaust port now. It was a small dark circle on the back of the giant ship. It looked no bigger than his fist from this distance, but he knew it was exactly 3 meters wide. Big enough for his ship. Barely. 30 seconds left. The port began to open. Hot gas rushed out, glowing orange and red. Tay aimed his ship directly at the center of the opening. His hands were steady. His breathing was calm. He thought of his mother, his father, his sister. He thought of the life he had lost and the lives he could save. The port was fully open now. Tay flew straight in. The heat was incredible. Warning alarms screamed in his cockpit. His ship shook like it was about to fall apart. But Tay held on. He flew through the narrow tunnel of fire and burst out the other side into the belly of the Vec mothership. He had made it. The inside of the ship was dark and strange. The walls were covered with something that looked like black skin. The air smelled like metal and death. Tay landed his ship in a small open area and climbed out, his weapon ready. He had exactly 20 minutes before the port would open again. 20 minutes to find a shield generator, destroy it, and escape. He started running. The first group of Vex soldiers found him after 50 meters. There were 6 of them. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes that glowed red in the darkness. They carried long blades that crackled with energy. Tay did not hesitate. He raised his gun and fired. 3 of them fell before they could react. The other 3 charged at him with terrible screams. Tay dropped his gun and pulled out his combat knife. The fight was brutal and fast. Tay moved like water, flowing around their attacks and striking at their weak points. He had spent 7 years learning how to fight. Not for glory, not for medals, but for this moment. The last Vex soldier fell to the ground. Tay picked up his gun and continued running. He fought through 12 more groups of enemies. He took wounds, a cut on his arm, a burn on his leg, a deep gash on his chest. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Finally, he reached the shield generator. It was a massive machine, as tall as a building. Glowing blue energy pulsed through its core. Hundreds of cables connected it to the walls, carrying power throughout the ship. If he could destroy it, the shields would fall. But there was a problem. Standing in front of the generator was a Vex warrior unlike any Tay had seen before. It was twice the size of the others. Its body was covered in black armor. In its hands, it held a weapon that looked like a giant axe made of pure energy. It was the Vex commander. The commander looked at Tay and laughed. The sound was cold and cruel. "A human," it said, its voice like grinding stones. "You came all this way to die?" Tay did not answer. He raised his gun and fired. The bullets bounced off the commander's armor like rain off a rock. The commander swung its axe. Tay jumped back, but he was too slow. The blade caught his left arm and cut through it like butter. Tay screamed. He fell to his knees. Blood poured from the wound where his arm used to be. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. The commander walked toward him slowly, enjoying the moment. "Your kind is weak," it said. "You should never have come to our galaxy." Tay looked up at the monster. His vision was blurring. His body was failing. But his mind was clear. With his remaining hand, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the explosives. Small charges, enough to destroy the generator. Enough to end this war. The commander saw what he was doing and raised its axe for the final blow. Tay threw the explosives. They flew through the air and stuck to the generator's core. Before the commander could react, Tay pressed the trigger in his hand. The explosion was blinding. The shockwave threw Tay backward. He crashed through a wall and into another room. Fire and debris flew everywhere. The whole ship shook like an earthquake. And then, outside, something amazing happened. The shield fell. On the command bridge of the Crown of Stars, Queen Nari watched in disbelief. The glowing barrier around the Vex mothership flickered once, twice, and then disappeared completely. "The shields are down," Lord Quan shouted. "All ships, attack!" The Alliance fleet surged forward. 1,000 weapons fired at once. Missiles and lasers slammed into the now unprotected mothership. Explosions bloomed across its surface like deadly flowers. The battle had turned. Nari stared at the screen. She thought of the quiet human who had walked so calmly into death. She thought of his simple name and his steady eyes. Did he survive? She whispered. No one could answer. On the burning deck of the Vex mothership, Tay lay in a pool of his own blood. His left arm was gone. His body was broken. But he was still breathing. Around him, the ship was falling apart. He could hear the explosions getting closer. He had only minutes before the whole thing would collapse. He forced himself to stand. He had to find a way out. He had to live. Not for himself, but for all the people who were counting on him. He started walking toward the light. The alarm screamed through the ship like the cry of a dying animal. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Soldiers ran to their stations. The enemy had come earlier than expected. Queen Nari stood on the command bridge and watched the battle unfold on the giant screen before her. The Vec fleet was massive. Hundreds of black ships moved through space like a swarm of hungry insects. At the center of the swarm was the Vec mothership. It was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons and armor. It was the heart of the enemy fleet, and it was protected by an energy shield so powerful that no weapon in the galaxy could break through it. "Status report," Nari commanded. Lord Quan stood beside her, his face pale with worry. "The outer colonies are under attack, Your Majesty. 3 planets have already fallen. Our fleet is trying to hold the line, but the mothership's shields are too strong. We cannot damage it." Nari clenched her fists. She had expected this. The Vec mothership had destroyed 100 worlds with those shields. No one had ever found a way to bring them down. "There must be something we can do," she said. A young officer stepped forward. His name was Captain Hyan. He was one of the few human officers in the Queen's fleet. He had earned his rank through years of hard work and clever thinking. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing his head, "there is one way, but it is almost impossible." "Speak," Nari ordered. Captain Hyan pulled up a diagram on the screen. It showed the inside of the Vec mothership. "The shield generator is located deep inside the ship," he explained. "If someone could get inside and destroy it, the shields would fall. Our fleet could then attack the mothership directly." "And how would someone get inside?" Lord Quan asked. "There is a small exhaust port on the back of the ship," Hyan said. "It opens for exactly 30 seconds every hour to release heat. A small ship could fly in during that window, but the pilot would have to be incredibly skilled. The port is only 3 meters wide. One mistake, and they would crash." Nari stared at the diagram. "And once inside, how would they destroy the generator?" "They would have to fight through hundreds of Vec soldiers," Hyan said quietly. "Alone. Then they would have to plant explosives on the generator and escape before the ship explodes." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what Captain Hyan was saying. This was not a mission. It was a death sentence. "No one could survive that," Lord Quan said. "I know," Hyan replied. "That is why I said it was almost impossible." Nari turned away from the screen. She looked at the stars outside the window. Her people were dying. Her planets were burning. She needed a miracle. "Is there no other way?" she asked. "No, Your Majesty. This is the only option." Nari closed her eyes. She would not order anyone to go on this mission. It would be murder. Before she could speak, a voice came from the back of the bridge. "I will go." Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was a human soldier in a simple gray uniform. He had a plain face and calm eyes. He looked like no one special. It was Tay. Queen Nari stared at him. She remembered this man. The quiet soldier with the simple name. The one who had been in the army for 7 years and earned nothing. "You?" she said. "You volunteer for this mission?" "Yes, Your Majesty." Lord Quan stepped forward angrily. "This is the command bridge. How did you get in here?" "Guards." "Let him speak," Nari said quietly. She was curious now. Why would this ordinary man offer his life for an impossible mission? Tay walked forward until he stood before the Queen. He did not bow. He simply looked at her with those calm, steady eyes. "I am a pilot," he said. "I can fly through the exhaust port." Captain Hyan shook his head. "With respect, Private, that would require the best pilot in the fleet. The margin for error is 0. "I understand," Tay said. "And once inside, you would face hundreds of enemies alone," Hyan continued. "You would have no backup, no support, no way out." "I understand," Tay said again. Nari studied his face. She was looking for fear, but she found none. She was looking for madness, but she found only peace. Why? She asked. Why would you do this? Tay was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. The Vec have taken something from me, he said. 5 years ago, they attacked a small colony called New Hope. Everyone there was killed. My mother, my father, my sister. I was the only survivor. The bridge was completely silent. I have been waiting for a chance like this, Tay continued. Not for revenge. Revenge is empty. I have been waiting for a chance to save others, to make sure no one else loses what I lost. He looked at the Queen directly. You asked me why I never sought promotion. This is why. I was not looking for glory. I was looking for purpose. And now I have found it. Nari did not know what to say. She had dismissed this man as weak and ordinary. But there was a fire inside him that she had not seen before. A quiet strength that did not need to shout. If I give you this mission, she said slowly, you will almost certainly die. I know, Tay replied. But if I succeed, millions will live. That is a trade I am willing to make. Captain Hyan stepped forward. Your Majesty, I must advise against this. We should send a team, not one man. A team cannot fit through the exhaust port, Tay said. One small ship. One pilot. That is the only way. Nari looked at Tay for a long time. She saw a man who had lost everything and had rebuilt himself from nothing. She saw a man who did not fear death because he had already died inside and come back stronger. She saw something she had never expected to see in a human. She saw a hero. Very well, she said. The mission is yours. Tay bowed his head. Thank you, Your Majesty. He turned and walked toward the door. As he passed Captain Hyan, the older officer grabbed his arm. Tay, Hyan said quietly. Come back alive. That is an order. Tay smiled. It was a small, sad smile. I will try, Captain. But some orders cannot be followed. He walked out of the bridge and into the corridor. The red lights still flashed. The alarms still screamed. But Tay walked calmly, like a man going for a morning walk. Behind him, Queen Nari watched him go. For the first time in her long life, she felt something she had never felt before. She felt respect for a human, and deep in her heart, she began to hope. The great warship floated in the darkness of space like a silver mountain. Its name was the Crown of Stars, and it belonged to Queen Nari of the Galactic Empire. She was the ruler of 47 planets and the commander of the largest fleet in the known universe. Today, she had come to inspect her allied forces. Queen Nari walked through the long halls of the ship with her guards behind her. She was tall and beautiful, with skin that shone like pale gold and eyes that burned like two small suns. Her people, the Solari, were an ancient race. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They believed they were better than all other species. And for a long time, nobody could prove them wrong. The humans had joined the Galactic Alliance only 50 years ago. They were new. They were weak. They had small bodies and short lives. Queen Nari did not think much of them. She allowed them in her army because they were many in number. They could fill the front lines. They could do the simple work. Nothing more. Today, she was walking through the human section of the ship. She wanted to see these soldiers with her own eyes. Her advisors had told her that humans were brave. She wanted to know if this was true. The human soldiers stood in long rows. They wore simple gray uniforms. They stood straight and still as the Queen passed by. Nari looked at their faces one by one. She saw fear in some eyes. She saw excitement in others. But mostly, she saw ordinary faces. Nothing special. Nothing interesting. Then she stopped. In the third row. There was a man who looked different from the others, not because he was tall or strong. In fact, he was quite average in size. His face was plain. His eyes were calm. He did not look afraid. He did not look excited. He simply stood there, quiet and still, like a stone in a river. Queen Nari walked closer to him. Her guards moved with her. The other soldiers held their breath. "What is your name?" she asked. The man looked at her. His eyes met hers without fear. This surprised her. Most beings could not look at a Solari queen directly. The light from her eyes was too strong for them. "My name is Tay, Your Majesty," he said. His voice was soft and steady. "Tay," she repeated. "That is a simple name." "I am a simple man," he replied. Nari studied his face. There was nothing remarkable about him. No scars, no medals, no signs of great battles. He looked like someone who had never done anything important in his life. "How long have you been a soldier?" she asked. 7 years, Your Majesty." 7 years, she said slowly. "And what is your rank?" "Private first class." Nari almost laughed. 7 years, and he was still a private first class. This was the lowest rank a soldier could have after so much time. It meant he had done nothing to earn a promotion. It meant he was invisible, forgettable. "You have served for 7 years, and you are still at the bottom," she said. "Why is that?" Tay did not look away. He did not seem ashamed. "I go where I am needed, Your Majesty," he said. "I do what must be done. I do not ask for rewards." Nari stared at him for a long moment. She did not understand this answer. In her world, everyone wanted power. Everyone wanted glory. A soldier who did not seek promotion was either a fool or a liar. She decided he was both. "You are dismissed," she said coldly. She turned away from him and continued walking down the line. Her chief advisor, a tall Solari named Lord Quan, walked beside her. He had been watching the conversation with interest. "That human was strange," he said quietly. "He was boring," Nari replied. "A waste of time. 7 years and nothing to show for it. Humans are truly as weak as I thought." Lord Quan nodded, but he looked back at Tay one more time. The human soldier had returned to his position. He stood perfectly still, his face calm, his eyes forward. There was something about him that Lord Quan could not explain, something that did not fit, but he said nothing. The queen had already made up her mind. That night, Nari sat in her private chambers and looked out at the stars. The war was coming. The enemy, a race called the Vec, was gathering its forces at the edge of the galaxy. They were brutal and savage. They destroyed everything in their path. The Galactic Alliance had been fighting them for 20 years, and the war was not going well. Nari needed strong soldiers. She needed heroes. She needed warriors who could turn the tide of battle. What she had instead were humans like Tay, quiet, ordinary, unremarkable. She sighed and closed her eyes. She would win this war with or without them. She was Queen Nari of the Galactic Empire. She had never lost a battle. She did not plan to start now. But somewhere deep in her heart, a small voice whispered that she was missing something. That she had looked at Tay and seen nothing when there was something there to see. She ignored the voice. She had no time for doubts. In 3 days, the enemy would attack. And when they did, she would show the galaxy what a true ruler could do. She did not know that the quiet human named Tay would show her something else entirely. Far below, in the common sleeping quarters, Tay lay on his small bed and looked at the ceiling. He thought about the queen and her golden eyes. He thought about the way she had looked at him like he was nothing. He was used to that look. He had seen it many times before. He closed his eyes and let sleep take him. Tomorrow would be another day. Another chance to do what needed to be done. And when the time came, he would be ready. He always was.